Kala Malak Yahweh wa Yahushai Bahashem Raha Kodash. And double honors to the elders of GMS for rule well, blessings unto those men, and blessings and salutations to the Akim out there in truth, pushing his word in all sincerity and in honesty. With that being said, Shalom Israel Barakatah. Today's lesson: there is neither Jew nor Greek. And when it comes to the scriptures, these so-called Christians love to run to the scripture of John 3:16 and onto the scripture of Galatians 3:28. And the reason the Christians run to both of these scriptures is to justify themselves in the saving of everyone. But the truth of the matter is that the Lord is not coming to save everyone. The Lord is coming for the elect of Israel, just as it says in the scripture of Isaiah 45:4. Let's begin at that scripture. Here we have Isaiah chapter 45 and verse 4. For Jacob, my servant's sake, and Israel, mine elect, I have even called thee by thy name. I have sure named thee, though thou hast not known me. But it says, Israel, mine elect. And this is the problem with these so-called Christians. They want to save everybody, when in reality the scriptures say different. What Christians do not seem to realize is that they are not in control of the Lord's movie. The Bible is the Lord's script, and therefore he changes not, according to Malachi 3:6. But with that being said, let's go over to the scripture of Galatians 3:28, which says the following. Here we have the scripture of Galatians 3:28. There is neither Jew nor Greek. There is neither bond nor free. There is neither male nor female. For ye are all one in Hamashiach Yahushai. You are one in the anointed, aka Hamashiach Yahushai. If the so-called Christians believe that this scripture is in reference to all nations, then why did it only mention the Greek and not other nations in the process? This is why you need the apocryphal scripture of 1 Maccabees 1:1 to answer the mystery. Now here's where it gets interesting. 1 Maccabees 1:1. And it happened after that Alexander, son of Philip, the Macedonian, who came out of the land of Chetham, had smitten Darius, king of the Persians and Medes, that he reigned in his stead. The first over Greece. This happened, and it's what you call secular history. The term secular was also used by Christians during the Middle Ages to discuss worldly as opposed to heavenly matters. But this chapter goes into how Esau, Edom, came back into power and took over the known world. This chapter of 1 Maccabees basically goes into that Greek captivity. But with that being said, let's go over to the scripture let's jump right down to 1 Maccabees 1:10 through 15. Because there were wicked Israelite men who went forth to make an agreement with the heathen that were round about. Israelites were scattered all over the nations. Tobit 13:3 proves that. Proving that there were Israelites living among the heathen nations. Here we have 1 Maccabees 1:10. And there came out of them a wicked root, Antiochus, surnamed Epiphanes, son of Antiochus the king, who had been an hostage at Rome, and he reigned in the 137th year of the kingdom of the Greeks. The Greeks were the beginning of Edom's kingdom. The Greeks were Macedonian and Agagite Edomites. Here we have 1 Maccabees 1:11. In those days went there out of Israel wicked men, who persuaded many, saying, Let us go and make a covenant with the heathen that are round about us. For since we departed from them, we have had much sorrow. Right. So in other words, those laws, statutes, and commandments were grievous to the wicked Israelites. One Maccabees 1:12. So this devise pleased them well. You see, devise is defined as division, separation, and desire. But they separated themselves from what? From Israelite customs by merging with the Hellenistic Greek way of life and its philosophies, and also those false deities. 1 Maccabees 1:13. Then certain of the people were so forward herein that they went to the king, who gave them license to do after the ordinances of the heathen. So you see, they asked the king for a license to do after the ordinances of the heathen. So the definition of the word license is a permit from an authority to own or use something, do a particular thing, or carry on a trade. Right, a license was given to permit Israelites to carry on with the wicked ordinances of the heathen round about. So right there it tells you that there were wicked Israelites living among the heathen nations. Basically, the wicked of our nation went to the king to receive a license to be sinners in the customs and philosophies of the Greeks through that heathen covenant. So those wicked Israelites became just like the Greeks. They became just like the Greeks themselves. The Gentiles that Paul went to wake up and bring back to the fold were Israelites of his own kindred and flesh. Paul also journeyed to those lands in order to speak to those Israelites that no longer wanted to continue in Greek ways. And Paul was an Israelite from the tribe of Benjamin, and he was sent to the generations of established Israelite foreigners that were living and having children in those Greek lands. That is the reason in which Paul was sent into those heathen Greek lands, in order to wake up the Israelite foreigners that lost their true heritage and Israelite culture in those lands. The true nation of Israel was scattered everywhere, according to the scripture of Tobit 13:3. You see? So in those days, there were Israelites living among the heathen Gentile nations, just as you see here today. Nothing new under the sun. So due to those Israelites living among the heathens, they too became Hellenized and became unnatural Gentiles themselves by following their heathen customs, philosophies, and false deities, those false gods. Nothing new under the sun, because even in these modern times, you have Israelites living among all the lands of the world. And when you live in foreign soil, you tend to follow the ways and customs of that land that you are now living in, that you now inhabit. And that is if you don't know the truth. One even tends to follow the false gods of the nations that are idols. Here we have 1 Maccabees 1:14. Whereupon they built a place of exercise at Jerusalem according to the customs of the heathen. There you have it. They built a place of exercise at Jerusalem according to the customs of the heathen. Even Jason wanted to become next in line to become high priest. He offered money for the position because he wanted to set up a place of exercise for the training up of youth in the fashions of the heathen, and to write them of Jerusalem by the name of Antiochians. You see, that is found upon the scripture of 2 Maccabees 4:8-10. So Jason, he offered money to the king in order to build a gym for the Israelites to be raised up like the Greek heathens, to be raised up as Antiochians, They were calling themselves Antiochians. That's like saying today that you are an American. Nothing new under the sun. One Maccabees 1:15, and made themselves uncircumcised, and forsook the holy covenant, and joined themselves to the heathen, and were sold to do mischief. You see? So there were wicked Israelites that joined themselves to the heathen Greeks and took on their heathen customs. That's why the scripture of Galatians 3:28 said, there is neither Jew nor Greek. That's why the scripture of Galatians 3:28 said, there is neither Jew nor Greek, because you had Israelites living just like the heathen that were round about them. That's why 1 Maccabees 1:13 mentioned that the king gave those wicked Israelites a license to do after the ordinances of the heathen. You see? That's why Paul went to those lands. But if those Israelites that were in those lands did not hear the church, they were counted as a heathen man and a publican. That's why the scripture of Matthew 18:17 said, and if he shall neglect to hear them, tell it unto the church. But if he neglect to hear the church, let him be unto thee as a heathen man and a publican. So in other words, when those Israelites left the law, statutes, and commandments to follow Greek customs, they became just like the Greeks. They were now considered Greeks themselves. In that Gentile state of mind. The law, statutes, and commandments were grievous to those Israelites, and in turn, they became heathens themselves. The Israelites upon that land were living like the Greeks. And by those Israelites not hearkening, they were now counted as a heathen man and a publican. You see? That's why the scripture of Galatians 3:28 said, there is neither Jew nor Greek. That's why these Christians cannot get it, because they do not read the corresponding scriptures that pertain to the scripture of Galatians 3:28 in the apocryphal books. In the Apocrypha. Let's go back to the scripture of Galatians 3:28. Now here we have Galatians 3:28 once again. There is neither Jew nor Greek, there is neither bond nor free, there is neither male nor female, for ye are all one in Hamashiach Yahushai. Yahushai being the Lord's rightful Hebrew name. Now the reason that is said, there is neither Jew nor Greek, is because they are both Israelites. There was Israelites that were calling themselves Jews, and you also had Israelites that were calling themselves Greeks. And that is due to those Israelites being raised in the customs of the Greek fashion while in captivity. That's just like a person now saying that they are an American. Nothing new under the sun. So by the Israelites living in these heathen lands, they learned of those heathen customs. You see? If you do not read the corresponding scriptures in the apocryphal books, you will not understand. Why do you think the Apocrypha is called the 14 hidden books? Here we have that cutting scripture of 1 Corinthians 12:2. Ye know that ye were Gentiles carried away unto these dumb idols, even as ye were led. You see, Israelites were carried away unto these dumb idols, unto these false deities and false gods of these nations. And Paul is talking here to the Israelite brethren, to his Israelite brethren or kinsmen in Corinth, Greece, that became what? Hellenized. Israel was led astray and carried away unto dumb idols by the false teachings of these other nations. The reason that is said, there is neither Jew nor Greek, is because they are both Israelites. There was Israelites that were calling themselves Jews, and you also had Israelites that were calling themselves Greeks. And there is your explanation. But with that being said, Kalalau Malak Yahweh, Wa Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Rachak, Wadash, and double honors to the elders of Jemas Ruel. Blessings unto those men, and blessings and salutations to the Akim out there in truth, pushing his word in all sincerity and in honesty. With that being said, Shalom Israel, Barakatah.